So we continue the conversation, and Prof, we were talking about what the Azimio game plan is, what the Azimio issues are with this government, and you said there's a whistleblower who's come up and claims that this is what happened in the IEBC, and you say the IEBC ought to respond. And Ndu asked, so who compels the IEBC to respond?
Correct. So we the IEBC is mulish and is piggish. And it took those characteristics from its chairman, Mr. Chebukati, who was an immovable object, just sitting there, impenetrable in his head, not responsive to the public. And when he responds to you, he's tilted, and you don't know what he's saying. So we do not.
You don't like it very much.
We do not think that the IEBC is capable of responding. We think that it is, by its own logic and organization inside there, it's an opaque institution whose role has been to rig elections, not to conduct them, but to rig them. So we don't expect them to do that, and they will not do that. And as I said before, the courts in this country are highly compromised and corrupt. It just goes without saying that in this country, why hire a lawyer when you can buy a judge? You know that phrase very well. And it's because our courts cannot provide justice.
Okay.
Judges are on the take in this country. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Because I think
so. We are wholesomely condemning the institution of the judiciary.
We are not. All of us.
Because we are saying judges are on the take. Courts are compromised.
No, I'm saying, Eric, that there is anyone who looks at the judiciary in this country, and even reports which were commissioned by the judiciary itself. When William Mutunga was Chief Justice, when C.J. Maraga was Chief Justice, they said openly and repeatedly that our courts are corrupt. I'm not saying anything new. That's not breaking news at all. When you have a Chief Justice who sits over a petition, an electoral petition, and who uses intemperate language to describe one party as opposed to the other, is abusive to one party. What do you think is happening there? Your guess is as good as mine. Judges are supposed.
No, I have no guess.
Judges are supposed to be fair. They are supposed to be temperate. They are supposed to have this judicial temperament. You don't use words like hot air, wild goose chase, and so on and so forth, because even if one of the parties is going to lose, you want that party to believe that justice was served. Okay, so you cannot be partisan. So I will say this to you: I don't want to make to make news today on the judiciary, and I will not. But I will simply say that as we gather information, about what happened in the elections of 2022, as we gather information on the IEBC, as we gather information about the Supreme Court, you're going to hear more things. That may shock your conscience. So I say this to you, that I have been in the law for a long time, okay, as an academic, okay, and as a person who understands these systems. When you see courts acting in ways that are funny, you look under the table. You look under the table and find out why are they acting so funny, not just in this country but elsewhere.
So when you
so when I say that the courts are compromised, I'm not making a statement that is new. I mean, the Grand Mullah himself, Ahmed Nasser Abdullahi, makes that claim all the time. Every person who practices law in this country knows that judges are on the take. These are facts. So you cannot simply go.
So how much?
You cannot go to the. It would be foolhardy for you to go to the courts every time expecting justice. What we are saying is that only the people themselves, the media like yourselves, and other objective bodies in this country that can establish the truth of what happened. And our view has been that perhaps we will need some international body to come and find out exactly what happened, because we do not have a credible institution in this country that can establish what happened. We, as I said before, there's information there on our website. The data is damning, okay? And the data, and I hope that you've looked at the data, it is very detailed by constituency, by county and so on.
It goes into it goes into details of figures and figures. It does not go into detail of how.
But there are also forms.
It does not go into detail of how, because the how, if a whistleblower is coming out to say this is what has happened, you'd expect that they would say these are the people who are behind it, and this is what they did, and this is what time they were doing it, and this is what. It's just figures. But anyway, let's continue. Let's not go into the whistleblower
let's not go into the details. But I'll just say this, Eric. The other thing that is on that website are authentic forms, or forms that appear to be authentic.
That's it. That's a better word.
The only way that
you can authenticate them is by producing
the only way that
IEBC
IEBC can say those forms are not authentic is by producing its own forms.
Okay.
And he has not done that.
What then we would expect to be hearing from the Azimio Brigade is say, open the ballot boxes. Because the ballot boxes, you have said it yourself, you have absolutely no doubt that Kenyans stand up to vote and that the voting process was clear. The people voted by putting their ballot papers in the ballot box. Why aren't you advocating for the recount of the ballots? Why are you talking about why should IEBC open servers and do all this and the other?
So let me tell you
Should that not be a secondary thing?
Let me tell you something. So you are aware that there were two books. There was book 1 and book 2.
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to go into the weeds on this one. But do you know that, in many instances, book 2 just disappeared?
Okay.
Okay? It's just disappeared. Was book 2 used to vote or not used to vote? We do not know.
Okay.
So the answer may not lie in the ballot boxes.
Neither will it lie in the servers.
No. Let me correct you there. If you permit me, my brother.
Okay.
Let me correct you a little bit. There were KIMS kits. The KIMS kits are programmed, okay, and they can tell you what was transmitted, when, and by who. Okay. We have asked for those KIMS kits. Okay. We are produce them, because that's how, the results were transmitted. They have not given them to us.
So that's what I'm saying, Prof.
Yeah. Well, they have not given them to us.
Instead of going into argue with technology, because even Raila spoke in Abuja the other day and he said, technology, my friend, will not work for you. Why not just say virtual? People voted virtually, manually. They went into a ballot, they were given ballot papers, they put them in the box, open the box and let's count.
I am not opposed to that.
Or even say, let's look at the KIMS kit at the point of voter identification. Yeah. How many voters were identified?
Yeah.
How many ballots were cast?
You
are not pushing for that. But let me tell you why.
Eric, I'm not opposed to that. I am not at all.
No, but that's not what you are advocating.
No, I'm saying
we can look the other side.
No, we can look at the ballot boxes. We should look at the ballot boxes. We should look at the KIMS kits. We want the entire infrastructure of the election laid bare to the public.
All right. So how would we see this process playing out? Because this is the thing that needs to be landed in the minds of people today. Because there are people then for whom are the audience of all of this. There are people who come to these rallies. As you say, maybe you're expectant for something. There's this air of, that says, okay, part of it is, all right, constitutionally, there's a government that's in place. Let it carry on and do its thing. There's an opposition which should be then putting this government to task. But we're saying here that there's something that's amiss, right? Okay, you can't take it to court because the court is compromised. This is what you said.
Yes.
IEBC is not answering because for who God knows why they're not answering.
They are they know what they cooked.
Okay, this is what you're saying. So the end game, what is it? Until how long? And then how is this all going to play out? There is a whistleblower who's come out and there's information on a website. Okay. There is Mr. Raila Odinga who said he should have won this election. He did not because of 1, 2, 3. The question is, then what?
So let me say this. So there are many things there that we can unpack. The election is one thing, okay, and we know what those issues are, okay, that we have raised vis-a-vis the IEBC or vis-a-vis the Supreme Court. We know what those issues are that we have raised. But there are other things that are also happening in the country. And you must see this, in that holistic context. So, for example, I talked about, the cost of living.
Yeah.
Okay? I talked about the appointment of individuals in the Uda regime, who are tainted, and many of whom have cases before the courts, okay, the same courts. Some of those cases have been withdrawn simply because, and we know whose cases have been withdrawn. And it is shocking to us that when the cases are withdrawn, the same people are appointed to senior positions in government. Okay, if the DPP was the one who prosecuted those cases, and in one case, in Mr. Gachagwa's case, a court ruled that the 202 million shillings were proceeds of crime. Okay, they are declared the winners the following day, more or less the following day. He gets his money back. This is the height of impunity. And then, at the same time that this is happening, these individuals are not doing anything to help the common mwananchi. Instead, they are engaging in this particular case, a wild goose chase about estate taxes, targeting Mr. Kenyatta, targeting his mom, Mamangina Kenyatta, and so on and so forth, and talking without knowledge. This Senator Cherargei, or whatever his name is just foaming at the mouth, talking about things he does not understand. The estate tax that he's talking about, that law was repealed in 1982. Okay, I can give him a short lesson. In 63, a law is enacted which says that if you die and you pass your estate to your progeny, okay, they will pay taxes. Okay, in 69, that law is amended to exempt the estate of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, okay, from paying taxes. In 81, Mr. Moi again pushes an amendment to also exempt his own estate. But in 82, there is a repeal of that law completely, so that no one in the country, should pay estate taxes. I think the argument was that it's an African to ask a dead person when they are passing their wealth to their children to pay taxes. So they don't understand even the law, what the law says. They're talking out of school. We've also seen, you guys have reported on it, the withdrawal of security from the former, head of state, Mr. Kenyatta, including security to his mom and his close family members, and so on and so forth. When Mr. Kenyatta was the head of state, he worked for this country. Okay, Mr. Kenyatta is in possession of, information that is central to Kenya, to the state, to this state. What if something was to happen to him because he doesn't have adequate security? This is vindictive conduct, and it's diverting attention from the kinds of things that, if you claim that you are elected, that you should be doing.
Exactly.
Instead of giving people 500 shillings in a hustler fund.
That is why, Prof, I call these concerts even your own rallies. All right? So look at the chronology of this. One time the president calls commissioners, independent commissions, constitutional commissions and independent officers to State House. He reads a statement in which he repeats that statement of the NSAC and others attempting or plotting to kidnap the former IEBC commissioner. And this is what was happening in Bomas. The following day, the Azimio brigade picks it up and they start responding. And almost the following day, they come up with the whistleblower account. Following weekend, you're at Kamukunji. And then that's a declaration, we don't even recognize this government. That conversation has just kept moving. William Ruto has now picked up the issue of people paying taxes. And the conversation that is coming from the Azimio brigade is stop going after the former president. Stop victimizing the former president. This is all of you are basically distracting us from the facts on the table. And the facts on the table are cost of living, cost of livelihoods. These headline today. The headline today in the Standard is showing children who performed exemplary well, and they're supposed to be reporting to Form 1 today. They may not go to the school that they have been admitted to. Why? Because of lack of school fees. And these are just a few of the cases that the Standard could land on. Very many children are not going to be able to report to school Form 1 between today and tomorrow because of a lack of school fees.
Yes.
Many are going to end up in schools that they did not want to go to.
Correct.
But the conversation coming from Azimio is not any of these issues that matter to the people today.
I don't know what rallies.
It is a whole, these are the issues.
Eric, with all due respect, I don't know what rallies you've been watching.
Because you are not giving, as the government that you're claiming that is a legitimate one that wants to get into office, you should be saying this is what ought to happen.
But
not just standing up and saying.
But Eric.
Tell me.
Eric, when you watch our rallies, okay, there are elements in the rallies where we discuss electoral malpractices. Yeah, without question. Because we feel very strongly about that.
Yeah.
And we think that we would be better governors of this country. But most of our rallies, I would say 70% of our rallies are devoted to discussing kitchen table issues, bread and butter issues, and telling the country what we would have done and what is not being done. It breaks my heart when you show those young people there, who are, have done very well, have done what they're supposed to do, but now they cannot go to school. It breaks my heart when you talk about that. But, this government, or this regime, I should call it, is interested in consolidation of its power. It's consolidation of its own power. It is not interested in delivering on the issues that you raise. You cannot blame us, Eric. You cannot blame us and say that these people in Azimio should not raise these issues. We are raising those issues.
You're repeating the obvious. Look, if you just stand out there and do like we do on this show, we say this is like what the Standard has done. The Standard is basically highlighting the issues.
Yes.
If this story was in yesterday's Standard, we'd have had the leadership in Azimio saying watoto hawaendi shule. Hii serikali imeshindwa.
No. We have been saying.
What is your solution as the government in waiting?
We have been saying that. And I hope that you read our manifesto.
No. I want to hear yesterday's rally, last weekend's. The previous weekend's rally. What exactly is the game plan? What shall you do to force this regime to respond today, as these children are going to school today, so that they can go to school? What shall you do to ensure that this regime, as you're calling it regime, not even administration, this regime, let's go with your words, this regime lowers the cost of unga immediately? What is it that you shall do? Don't just tell us that they have failed. We know they have failed. We are the ones who are not eating the unga.
Let me tell you something, Eric. If you have a neighbor, next to you, who is not supposed to do, who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing in their house, you cannot go and tell them, what they should do, That's not your job. Your job is not to go tell them what they should do, Our job is not to tell these people what they should be doing.
But to highlight when they're not
because we do not believe that they are legitimate. We are not going to engage them as peers, as co-equals.
Are you saying
because we are saying they are usurpers?
I need to get some clarity here.
Yes.
Because so are you saying the position of opposition is not even going to be discussed at this point? Because what you're saying as the Azimio side is that, as far as you're concerned, there's nobody there's nobody in the administration.
We are not opposition.
So there's nothing.
We are not opposition.
So essentially, you're saying you cannot oppose something that is not there. Is that what you're saying?
We are not going to be engaging with a regime that we don't recognize. So for example, I have to make this point here. You have seen Mr. Ruto hurtling down, the path, trying to recreate the IEBC. They have formed a panel to appoint people and so on, to vet people and so on. We don't recognize that process, and we're not participating in it. at all. We are not. So we are not going to engage with a government that is illegitimate, that is a usurper. We are not going to do that.
So what are the people of Kenya who are coming to these rallies every weekend? What are they participating in?
The people of Kenya are interested in making sure that the votes that they cast on August the 9th last year are respected. And their view, the people who come to those rallies, their view, and a very large majority of Kenyans, their view is that we won the election. I tell you something. I have been walking around this city. Okay? I go to malls, I go everywhere. Do you know the single most important thing that everyone is asking me and telling me? You know, the people just come to me literally weeping, saying that, what are we going to do now that the election was stolen? Their words, and I'm telling you that I'm not making this up. You know, I cannot even walk for like a minute without being stopped by someone to ask that question. One lady stopped me at Sari Center the other day and said, you know, my soul died, you know, when Chebukati announced that election. You know, people in this country are angry. Have you seen an election in which a person is announced as a winner and there's no celebration? Have you seen an election like that one? I have never seen it. Typically, when an election takes place and someone is elected, the country, you know, exhales and says, you know, the election is over. Yeah? Let's go and make money. This did not happen in this country.
It did.
No, it did not. There was a brief.
In your quarters, it didn't.
There was a brief.
In other quarters,
no, Eric, I was watching news just like you. There was a brief moment of celebration in somewhere in Eldoret. I didn't see it anywhere else. The streets were empty, completely empty. You know, Eric, and I know this. The people of Kenya are now traumatized and depressed. You know that. And if you don't know that...
So you're saying, Prof, that the most pressing need for Kenyans today is what to do because their election was stolen.
Yes. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
The most important thing is not about food, it's not about taking their children to school, it's not about any of those things.
Because unless you correct this, unless you put the right people who won the election in power,
right,
those problems that we are talking about will not be corrected.
So when you talk
to them... They have been in office for 6 months. They have not corrected anything.
So when you talk to the people, because you say that you go to the rallies and you talk to the people and you remind them about the cost of living and all, what is it that you tell them? Remember, the cost of living is high. Remember, you have not eaten this morning.
No,
remember, your children may not go to school tomorrow. Is that what you tell them?
We don't even tell the people that. You know, actually, if you watch our rally yesterday, there were people who came on the stage and spoke themselves. You know, our politicians spoke last. Okay? The people themselves came and spoke about those issues that we are talking about.
And what were they saying?
They were saying that the government is not doing anything to help them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are telling you, their leaders, that this government is not doing anything to help us.
And then they said...
What was your response
and then
as the leaders?
And then they said, that, you know, as they said that, they said, you tell us when we are going to go and reclaim our victory.
How does that work out exactly?
So that the things that are not being done can be done by you guys.
So you, as a government in waiting, your message is only simple. Your life can only get better if we get into power.
Absolutely, Eric.
Without the house.
No. We have the house, my brother. We have the house. We have a full manifesto of things to do. You know, we talked about 6,000 shillings for every household. We have a program that we can put in place.
So your leaders that are in executive offices and in legislative offices today, are they also saying that I am the leader of the minority in the National Assembly? There is nothing I will raise here until you are in power. I will not engage with the executive. I will not oversight the executive because I don't recognize the executive. Is that what you're telling Opiyo Wandayi to say? Is that what you're telling the ODM chairman, who's a nominated member of parliament, to say? Is that what you're telling the chairman of the finance committee of the Council of Governors to go and sit with the vice deputy president and say? You have seen
the minority leader, who should be majority leader, by the way, Opiyo Wandayi, raise issues. You've seen him in parliament. Okay, you've seen him raise issues. You've seen him oppose this attempt to impose the IEBC, Mr. Ruto's IEBC, and handpick the commissioners. You've seen them doing that. So our various elected leaders are fighting in the trenches. Okay, the Azimio governors are doing as much as they can to get money from the center, because that money does not belong to UDA.
But yet the national leadership of Azimio,
that money, let me finish. That money belongs to
the people of Kenya.
To the people of Kenya. It's taxpayer money.
Yes.
And so they're entitled to ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a favor that anyone is doing it. And as you know, we have 2 levels of government.
So
okay?
the cost of living is the big issue today.
Yes.
The CS for the National Treasury is about to take a supplementary budget to Parliament, all right? The budget policy statement has been taken to Parliament, right? But when you're speaking to the people in Kibera, you're not focusing our attention on what Opio and I should be doing and the support that he should be getting from the national leadership of Azimio to make sure that the money that this regime, as you call it, wants to spend is spent well for the benefit of the people of Kenya. You're saying the only thing we're interested in is getting them out of office.
Not at all, Eric. Of course, we can chew gum and walk at the same time.
You don't seem to be doing that.
No, we are doing that. Look at our MPs in Parliament. Look at them.
They are muted.
And in the Senate,
we
have been opposing GMO foods. You know that. We have been opposing many of the punitive measures, advanced by UDA. We are not simply saying that we are a one agenda, sort of political movement. What we are saying is that the overarching goal of our movement is to kick these people out of State House. That's the overarching goal of our movement.
Through legal means, like you said.
Through legal means.
Okay.
It does not mean that we're not doing other things. We are doing other things. But we are saying that, for example, some of the things that they are doing, like trying to pack the IEBC, we cannot cooperate with them on that one. We just oppose that completely. And we cannot take a petition to Mr. Ruto because we don't think he is illegitimate. We do not.
So what legal avenues are left to you?
And this is the thing, I think, here that needs to... I think, again, unpacking the how in terms of how this is actually going to happen.
Yes, this is the first time you've asked me this question.
Yeah, I really have. I think might be edging on 5 now.
Edging on 5, yes.
How is this going to happen? And I keep going back to the people because that's where my interest lies, in the people of this country, for whose livelihoods every day are being dashed against the rocks.
Yes,
every single day.
Every day. You're right about that.
And then here it is, and there's an opportunity at least to bring that to light.
Yes.
And we still are not, because it just then seems as though, and you have to realize how this looks, that it would look as though a personal agenda then is trying to be met and it's sacrificing the livelihoods of Kenyans every day.
Yeah, so
that's how it looks.
Yeah, so
if you're not presenting a how to the people to say, okay, you know what, guys, this is what the situation is according to you, and this is the way that we see it can be worked on. How then do you tell the people that, okay, we're working on the issues, we're at least trying to keep the government to account and say, look at what Kenyans are talking about. You said you would do this. You haven't done it. You said you would do this. You said by the time I put the Bible down, 1, 2, 3 will happen. You then, as the opposition, poke in those holes. But then you're saying, well, you can't operate as the opposition because you don't recognize this government in the first place. So which one is it?
No. I think actually we produced a report of Azimio, which is a report card on the first 100 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen that.
Yes.
It was very detailed.
Yeah.
And it tabulated the things that have not been done. And in that tabulation, we also said what should be done. We said that. So it is not true that we have not, given solutions. That is not correct. We have done that. When, for example, they were trying to constitute the to prosecute and prosecute the IEBC commissioners. We engaged them. Myself, Mr. Odinga, Martha Karua, and Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, we actually went to the hearings. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we went there. So we are engaging. But what we are saying to Kenyans is that their livelihoods, okay, and the state of, the economy in this country is not going to improve unless, Azimio takes power. That's what we are saying. And we are not apologetic about that because we know what we want to do. We know what we ran on, and we know what we stand for. And we don't stand for impunity. We don't stand for corruption. We don't stand for all of those things that these guys are doing. We do not.
Let's take a Minute Maid break. All right?
Yes.
Time for some Minute Maid. Hopefully, when you come back, you can finally answer Ndu's question.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Prof,
Yes.
remember when I said that it was breaking news when I heard it from you?
Yes.
Because Professor Makau, Mutua, you're not just any other person in this country. You, for very many years, 40 years plus, you've been pushing for rights, for democracy, for institutionalization and constitutionalism in this country, right? You've been in the trenches. You've founded the Kenya Human Rights Commission.
True.
That has pushed that conversation for very many years.
True.
You have pushed for the Constitution, which created institutions, and then we said that those institutions will function best if the people of Kenya respect those institutions.
Correct.
And they look at those institutions and empower the institutions and make sure that we run away from the interference, the political interference into those institutions. That's why we call them independent offices. We call them constitutional commissions because their power is directly in the Constitution and protected in the Constitution. That's what we push for.
Correct.
So when I hear you stand back and say, we cannot go to the judiciary, I ask myself, is this the same professor who says, let's empower the institutions that are in place and let's make sure that we work with them? That's one point.
Okay.
Now, you have said that the Azimio is willing to use all legal and constitutional means to take over power from what you're calling this illegal regime, illegitimate regime.
Yeah.
What are those legal means?
Yeah.
What legal options do you have?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just say that, and I hope that I'm going to answer your question also that you've been asking for 5 times. You don't seem to accept my answers, but let me say that in 2016 I ran for Chief Justice of this country, and I was running for Chief Justice on the back of Willie Mutunga's tenure. Willie Mutunga had been there for some 6-7 years. As you probably know, he's a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
I knew what was happening at the judiciary. He tried extremely hard to clean up the judiciary. Okay? Very, very hard. And it is not a secret that when he left, he was very dissatisfied that he had not managed to clean up that place of corruption. He had not done it. Mr. Maraga came in. Mr. Maraga also tried very hard. Okay? So it is not, I was not running for Chief Justice to go and sit in a chair to be called Chief Justice. I was running because I had a vision of how one cleans up the judiciary. And I talked about it in my interview. Okay? And top on the agenda for me were 2 things. Number 1 is making sure that courts deliver justice efficiently, on time, and without corruption. Top on my agenda. I wanted to introduce a lifestyle audit process in the Supreme Court, but also for the lower judiciary, to make sure that people can justify how they have what they have. Because I'm sure perhaps 90% of people in the judiciary cannot justify the property they have. Yeah. Perhaps 90% cannot justify the property they have, juxtaposed against their salaries. Okay, so...
do you think the Cherargei team did not do a good job?
They did not. They did not. And I'll tell you, because the problem is entrenched. And people know this, that we have a rotten judiciary, my brother and sister. We have a rotten judiciary. And we cannot simply close our eyes and think that it is not rotten. That's why I ran for Chief Justice. And obviously I was not successful. And I will tell you that you mentioned that we formed the Kenya Human Rights Commission. We formed the commission to address those same issues. There was a report by Justice Quach many years ago on the judiciary, which talked about how rotten the whole place was. So these are just facts. So, and Kenyans are not just speaking out of turn when they say that why, hire a lawyer when you can buy a judge. They're not just talking out of school. So let us rest that issue, that our judiciary is corrupt and corruptible. Okay, and we need to do something about that. If
does that include going to the judiciary seeking justice? Or should we say, until the day that we feel satisfied that our judiciary is clean, let us not seek justice in the judiciary?
No. We for example, given the judiciary chances, from our political side, we have given them we took our petition to them. We did. So it's not that we will completely shun the institutions of the judiciary. No, we make decisions. We are now suing, on GMO foods. So we are still engaging them.
Okay.
Yeah. Recently, one of our people was arrested. Okay. We had a lawyer to engage the courts to make sure that he's released. Because we are taxpayers and these are our institutions.
Okay.
We continue to engage them, but we continue to engage them with them wisely. Okay. And there are some issues that they can handle. There are some issues that they cannot handle.
That you have determined that they cannot handle.
They cannot handle.
Okay.
Okay. So let us park that on the side.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing that I think you mentioned is, what are we going to do? What is the end game here? And I'll tell you that we are interested in making sure that the people of Kenya understand that the election was stolen. Number one. Number two, we want to make sure that they understand that they have particular tools in their arsenal.
Okay.
Okay? They have the tools of protest, which is constitutional.
That is one.
They have the tools of sit-ins, which is constitutional. They have the tools of marching, which is constitutional. If you heard Mr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka speak yesterday, he counseled people. He said, even when we decide to go to demonstrate, we must be peaceful. I think he spent like 5 minutes talking about discipline and civility in exercising those rights. Okay? That is how we want to prosecute our case. Peacefully, respecting property, respecting people's lives. That's what we want to do. No one is interested in causing chaos in this country.
Sure.
Right.
With what expected outcomes? What is the hope? Because I believe we saw a graduating list.
We believe that
if one thing doesn't happen, then we do the next. If
No.
one thing doesn't happen, or is this all of this happening simultaneously?
we believe that, first we were in Kibera yesterday. On Sunday, we're going to go to Mavoko, Machakos. Then we'll go to Busia and so on and so forth. We are going to nationalize this campaign for justice, for electoral justice. At the end of the day, what do we want to do? We want to force this regime out.
So how do you do that?
And we believe that the people will do that. People will do that.
So you want a sort of an Arab Spring? A sort of a nationwide uprising or outpouring of people onto the streets?
We want people to withdraw any recognition or support they have for this government and to push it out by peaceful means.
An orange revolution of sorts.
You call it that, that's your language, but I will not
People out into the streets.
When you say people out in the streets,
Sit-ins.
we are
So
talking
say
about
you say we are going to be in Uhuru Park for the next 3 weeks until Ruto leaves State House.
Well, we can even surround the State House.
Okay. An insurrection into...
Not insurrection. No, that's a different word.
What's the difference?
No. An insurrection...
If you say that you are going to State House...
An insurrection may imply that you're going to use arms.
Right.
No, we are not. We are not.
So you'll do a Bolsonaro kind of thing.
We
just get into the halls of Parliament or halls of State House and occupy.
No, I know. I think
occupy State House.
We let me say this here. We are going to do those things that are peaceful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a peaceful occupation of State House.
We will do things that are peaceful. If that includes surrounding the place or it includes marching on the place, that is what we are going to do. But we are not going to encourage anyone to take the law into their own hands.
But there is no option.
Can I ask you something here? If you usually something is applied to a solution that acts as a catalyst,
yes,
then that brings about a reaction.
Yes,
we cannot run away from what some of these things that you're suggesting about then would invite.
Yes.
What about the consequences of said action? I mean, just the thought, for example, of what Eric is saying now, surrounding State House if need be, in a peaceful manner. In a peaceful manner. Something like that may have never been done before.
The people of Sri Lanka were peacefully going into
Kenya,
Parliament. An MP
is there
died.
an awareness of what that would invite this agent that is now applied to this situation, what the consequent action of that would be? Doesn't seem like a very pretty picture to me.
We expect the government to respect the law and the Constitution and to allow people to express their will within the four corners of the Constitution and the law. We don't expect the government to resort to violence. We do not. That would be a disaster.
So should, let's say, that there's peaceful occupation of, say, State House, and the president leaves State House, what are the next steps of legally then proclaiming Raila Odinga as president?
At that point, I think what you are looking at is a collapse of government. Yeah. And you know the sovereign will of the people is supreme. Okay. The people are the one who make the Constitution. The people can unmake the Constitution. They can amend it. They can do whatever they want to do with it. What I would say is that if the government collapses, obviously there would have to be an agreed structure to take its place, maybe an interim arrangement.
Are those plans already laid out? Because you have a plan. You've done 3 weekends now. The next one is coming into Machakos, the next one in Busia. There's a plan of action. Is this all laid out in plan? Because when I hear you, it seems like what you want to do is, first of all, create the necessary amount of tension, and then from that point on, let the bird fly.
This is
wherever it perches, let it perch.
It is not up to the Azimio leadership or to Mr. Odinga himself to tell the people exactly what to do.
Why not?
And because this country does not just belong to him; it belongs to all of us.
All right.
It belongs to all of us, and the decision.
So,
as
at
to
what point will his
do,
leadership end? Because right now he is telling people, come to Jacaranda, come to Kibera, come to Machakos on Sunday. He is leading. The people are not the ones who are saying, come to Kibera.
Actually, let me tell you something. We started these meetings and consultations with the people because the people demanded that we do. I know that you find that difficult to wrap your head around, but in fact, people have been asking this of us almost every day.
Okay.
What are you guys going to do? Give us direction.
All right.
We've responded.
So they are saying, give us direction.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And you're giving them direction. Let us meet in Kibera on Sunday.
And talk about
it.
These issues.
Okay?
Yes.
Then what they are saying is, we are willing to participate. Give us direction. Give us leadership.
Not willing. We are chomping at the bit.
All right.
Chomping at the bit.
So that's the question I'm asking. So in this direction that they're asking of Raila Odinga and the leadership of Azimio, is Raila Odinga responding by coming up with a proper plan of direction? This is what I propose we do. We are going to do this, and the other. When Kalonzo was saying, when we call out to go to the streets, we shall maintain peace, that means Kalonzo is the one who's saying, we shall advise when is the best time to go. Because you as the leaders are looking at this and you have a plan. Do you then have a plan of when you will go to State House, of when you will this man will leave office, of what kind of shape or form that interim government will look like?
It's a good question, and I didn't expect you to fail to ask this question in the manner in which you are asking it, in a very pointed way. But I'm not going to make news here. Let me just say this here. You've tried your best, as my sister. We are in consultations about those kinds of the questions you are asking, and we are looking at different scenarios, and which we shall communicate to the people of this country in consultation with them. And I can be honest with you and tell you that some of those issues that you are talking about have not been ventilated fully as we speak. But we are leaders. It is true. Our job is to think through outcomes and so on. As my sister was saying here, what if the reaction is not what we expect it to be? We have to be responsible for that, and we have to think carefully about it. To make sure that we safeguard property, life, and limb.
In the meantime, should we expect that the Azimio elected legislators in Parliament will do their job.
Yeah, of course they are doing their job. They are very busy. Very, very busy.
They sat back as an amendment to the IEBC Act.
Yeah, we could not participate. We could not participate in that.
There you
there
go.
are some things.
Will you participate in the budget making?
By not participating in it, we are sending a message. We will not participate in the reconstitution of the IEBC. In fact, our position is this, that the IEBC should be abolished as a national body and elections devolved to the counties, as they do in the United States. Devolve the elections to the counties.
Okay.
That's our position.
Okay.
And we said that in Nigeria, by the way.
Is there? Yeah, you've said that. What I expect to see is actually a document that shows us the structure. This alternative that you talk about, if you went out and said, this is the structure, this is how we can amend the law, this is the structure of how the IEBC would look like at the county level, this is how it will be composed, to make sure that William Ruto does not pick the 47 IEBCs.
No, we can do that. We can do that, Eric. But the question is that they are driving the process.
No. You're driving the alternative process.
No,
yours is alternative.
Who's driving the process?
No, that they are in a kangaroo way. They are driving the process in a kangaroo way. So we cannot participate in kangaroo processes. We're not going to do that.
That is for the national IEBC.
Because if we do that, we legitimize what they are doing.
That is for the national IEBC. You've come up with a whole different animal.
Yes, devolving to the county.
Called 47 IEBCs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Those 47 IEBCs, what shape or form are they? How do we make sure that Raila does not form all the 47 IEBCs? Or Ruto does not form all the 47 IEBCs? How do we know?
So once those issues are being discussed, we shall lay our plans on the table. We are not devoid of plans, Eric. We are not. Believe me.
Sometimes you act as if you know.
No.
Say things and then you follow up with, okay, now we've said it. Now, can you go, Prof?
No, but the structure of devolving elections and the design of it is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's been done in many countries. It really is not. In the US, as you know, I'm sure you've gone there when they're having elections. It's a very simple process.
In India, it's a very simple election.
Yeah. Why can't we be like? Why can't we make it as simple as that? We could.
Okay.
Instead of giving the power to one person called Chebukati.
Professor, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
It's been a short. You can put on your.
I'm going to put on my
your beret.
And your
put on
regalia.
Put on my regalia and my glasses, just so that I complete the picture.
So now we call you comrade?
I've always been a comrade.
Officially.
Professor Makau Mutua has been our guest. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation.